This podcast is brought to you by Contessa Digital.
Hey, love. Well, let's talk about the time that I was really shallow and what you can learn about it when it comes to having healthy relationships. So, I was in college, and one day I walked into one of my classes and I saw the best looking guy I had ever seen. He was absolutely gorgeous. Just jaw-dropping, right? And I remember thinking there's no way that someone like him would bother to talk to someone like me. And I remember going back and forth, having all these thoughts about how, I could stare at him all I wanted, but there was never going to be anything about it until I finally got the courage to be like, you know what? I am going to strike up a conversation with this guy. Like, what do I have to lose? Worst case scenario, he rejects me. At this point, it was already halfway through the semester and it was a very large class. So I was like, okay, if I shoot my shot and he turns me down, then I just have to get through a couple of months and it's a large class. I'll sit on the other side of the room after that. I go to this guy and I introduce myself. He introduces himself. And I try to strike up a conversation. I'm like, hey, what is it that you do? What are you majoring in? And he was like, well, I don't really care too much about school, but I run track. And I was like, oh, okay. So, I told him what I was majoring in and everything. And I asked him, well, what are your hobbies? What do you do outside of running track? And he was like, I just run track. And I was like, okay. And I was like, so is there anything else that you like TV shows, music, or whatever? And I kid you not, his response was, I'd run really fast. So despite this riveting conversation, and the red flag of that was all he could talk about, I still wanted to pursue this guy because, again, he was that good looking. And I did. And he and I actually ended up dating, and it ended for the reason that you're probably thinking that it ended. He really did have nothing else to talk about. And as good looking as he was, I could only put up with that for a couple of days of dating. We did end up still being friends. And, I still had that class with him, actually ended up in another class with him later on. And we got along. But yeah, I could not be in a relationship with someone who I did not find intellectually stimulating. But I tried. I tried very hard. So, welcome to Confidently Cherished. If this is your first time listening to me, my name is Keisha Rice. I am a dating coach and hypnotherapist. I help women learn how to overcome unhealthy generational patterns, improve their mindset, and get rid of their limiting beliefs so that they can attract happy and healthy relationships. So in this episode, I wanted to talk about 5 of the biggest mistakes that women make in dating. And pretty much anytime a woman comes to me with relationship issues, relationship drama, pretty much all of these problems are somehow related to one of these 5. So the first one is related to that story that I just told you, and that is bending or compromising or letting go of your standards and or your boundaries. In order to have a healthy relationship with someone else, you have to know what it is that you need for yourself. You have to know what standards you need to have in order to be in a happy relationship. You have to know what your must-haves are, what your deal breakers are, and you have to have boundaries in place. Boundaries are the thing that invite other people to have great relationships with you. When you set a boundary with someone, you are telling them, hey, I love you, I care about you, in order for us to have a good relationship as parent, child, husband, wife, sibling, friend to friend. In order for us to have these great relationships, these are the things that I need from the relationship. That is all a boundary is. And once you know what your boundaries are, what your standards are, it is much easier to discern the right partner for you and to grow and develop relationships with people who can be right for you. But this concept only works if you hold firm to these standards and to these boundaries that you set. You know, I see this happen with women so often that they want to meet Mr. Right, but instead they end up meeting Mr. Right Now, who is mostly good on paper except for one glaring thing that has always been a deal breaker for them, or one major issue that has always been a standard for them that they set early on. But now that they've met this guy who has a lot of other positive qualities, but not the thing that is a make or break for them. So, for example, you know, a woman who says that she doesn't want to be with a man who is a smoker, but if everything else is good, she'll bend and break that standard and say, well, he doesn't smoke that often, or maybe I can convince him to not smoke around me, you know, things like that. Or if having a high level of education is important to you, and then you meet a man who, you know, didn't graduate high school, and this is really important to you, but you've also got to a point where you so want to have a relationship, you so badly want things to work out that you give that up. What you do is you set yourself up for resentment. And that's not fair to you. It's also not fair to the person that you're dating, because these could be standards and deal breakers for you, right? But there are other women out there who will date a man who smokes, or there are other women out there who will date or marry a man who doesn't have the same level of education as they do. And, you know, there's no right or wrong to that unless we're talking about, you know, straight up abuse. But everyone has their own different boundaries, their own different standards. Everyone has things that are important to them that may not be important to other people. But once you know what those boundaries and standards are, you have to stick with them. The number 2 mistake that people make all the time in dating is allowing the other person to be inconsistent. People treat you how you allow them to treat you. People will do what they are allowed to do. And, you know, back to the first point about setting standards. If someone is truly interested in you, if they really want to get to know you, then they're going to be consistent in their time spent with you and in how they behave around you. So this person is going to consistently call and text and make the effort to get to know you. This person is going to consistently treat you well, even if you don't necessarily agree on some things. You know, this is a major red flag that you're dating someone and for the most part they treat you well, but then if the two of you, God forbid, disagree about something, it becomes a Jekyll and Hyde situation, right? Even if a person disagrees with you, and even if they don't like what you have to say about something, they should still be able to regulate their emotions enough to still treat you with respect, to still give you a respectful answer to what you're saying, even if they don't like it and don't agree with it. But when you allow people to be inconsistent, you get inconsistent results. We're talking about dating and romantic relationships, but this is no different than anything else in your life. If you say that you want to lose 20 pounds, but you're inconsistent with your diet and your exercise, you're not going to have the optimal health results that you were hoping for, right? If you say that you want to learn a new language, but you're not consistent with your practice, you're not going to learn the language as well. Or if you learn it, it's going to take you so much longer. This works the same way in relationships. If you are inconsistent in relationships, then you need to bow out of the dating game, and you need to spend some time with a therapist or a coach figuring out why that is the reason, right? And doing that inner work on yourself. But if you're in a relationship with someone and that person is inconsistent, they are showing you how much they care about your time and your energy that you're putting forth in the relationship. And just like with everything else in life, you will end up with inconsistent results in that relationship. Either it will not be healthy and end, or you could get in a situation with someone and it lasts, but the two of you are constantly hanging by a string in this relationship. And that's not what you want. You want to be in a situation in which you have a true partner, in which the two of you are thriving, not in a situation in which you hang out together because neither one of you wants to be alone, or because the person looks good on paper, but in practice, they're not so great. The number 3 mistake that particularly women make all the time is not allowing yourself to receive. I get that we are in a society where, I remember I was in high school when Destiny's Child put out that song, Independent Women. And I know now we have the whole boss babe movement and all that. And I think that is great. God bless the child who has her own. I think women should have their own money. I think women should be prepared, because you never know. Like, people always jump to the worst, and yes, you could end up with a partner who is abusive or who is a cheater, and you need to get out of that situation. But, also things like you could end up with a partner who is great, but he ends up getting sick and can't work. He ends up being somehow incapacitated and can't do the job that he was doing before. You need to always be able to make sure that you are able to take care of yourself. That being said, even though you can take care of yourself and you should be able to do that, there's nothing wrong and plenty right with also allowing the people in your life who love you and care about you to give to you and for you to receive that graciously. I want you to spend some time asking yourself, how well do you receive? And if you can't think of an example with gifts, then think about the last time someone gave you a compliment. The last time someone said that they loved your hair or your nails, or they loved the outfit that you were wearing. Did you graciously accept that and say thank you? Or did you immediately try to justify, oh, this dress is old, or, oh, I didn't do much to my hair today, or insert whatever thing that you gave to downplay the compliment that someone tried to generously give you. If you have a hard time receiving compliments, you have a hard time receiving love and affection and gifts and other things from other people as well. And that is this inability to receive is going to take you out of your feminine energy. And it is also going to be annoying to the people who love and care about you and who want to give to you and who want to see you happy. And it's going to be more so annoying for a man who is in his masculine energy, who wants to show his love through allowing you to feel taken care of. Speaking of allowing someone to take care of you, the number 4 mistake is accepting and allowing low effort dating. So When I say low effort, I'm talking about things like this person is not consistent. They call you whenever it's convenient. Or this person makes last minute plans because they feel like you're not worthy enough to have plans far in advance anyways. This person is not putting forth effort into the relationship. They don't take the time to plan out things. They don't take the time to get to learn your interests, what you like. An example I can think of is when my husband and I first started dating. He bought me a bunch of red roses, and he gave them to me, and I tried to hide it, but unfortunately my face does not have an indoor voice, so I immediately made a face. And he asked what that face was about, and I told him that while I appreciated the flowers, and it was such a sweet romantic gesture, and I recognized that it was a sweet romantic gesture, at the same time I was not a fan of red roses. And I explained to him my reasons for why red roses were not a favorite flower of mine and what flowers I liked instead. And after that, our next few dates, he consistently gave me flowers, and it was always a type of flower that I actually liked. Now, I'm not saying that someone has to give you flowers on every single date, unless, you're really into them, and, you can say that. But my point in telling this story was that he made the effort to learn about what I liked instead of just expecting that I should be grateful and, or getting mad and never doing that again. He took the time and effort to learn what I liked and made the commitment to finding what it was that I liked. And the number 5 behavior that screws up relationships is overgiving. So we talked earlier about allowing yourself to receive. You also have to make sure that you are not giving too much. Relationships, romantic and otherwise, should be reciprocal. So you should not be finding yourself in a situation in which you give so much time, effort, attention, love, care, nurturing to another person, and this person can't match that energy. If the person can't match that energy, they are not a match for you. Point blank, period. And it doesn't necessarily have to be matched in the same way, because I know how some of you are. You're going to send me messages on Instagram and be like, well, what if I am just skilled at doing this or making homemade gifts, and I date someone who he cares about me, but he can't make homemade gifts the way that I can? Cool. But if he is a grown man, then he's capable of doing something. If you are taking the time to make homemade gifts, to bake for him or do arts and crafts or whatever it is that you're doing for him, then he has plenty of time to get creative in how he plans dates. He has plenty of time to go to a store and buy a gift. So, no, it doesn't have to be the exact same thing that you do, but the level of effort that the person is putting forth needs to match yours. So however that is that the person matches, it needs to be a match, because relationships are give and take. So you need to allow yourself to receive, and, you need to be with a person who is giving and who is generous as well. And who does that out of a generous spirit, not because they want to manipulate somehow. So those are the 5 common mistakes I see that are made in dating and relationships. They are, once again, bending or lowering your standards and your boundaries, allowing someone to be inconsistent, not allowing yourself to receive, accepting low effort from someone else, and overgiving. So let me know what you think. I am on Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok at Keisha Rice, KESHIARIC. So, screenshot this episode, post a recording in your stories, and just let me know what your insights are, what your takeaways are. And until then, I will talk to you soon. Love you so much. Bye. Hey there. So you made it all the way to the end of the episode, which means I have two things to say. One, thank you so much. I truly appreciate it. And two, you like me. You really like me. So I would appreciate it if you would show that like by subscribing to this podcast so that more people can hear about it and enjoy it as much as you do. And if you want to know more about any of the links that I mentioned on this episode or any guests that I've had, be sure to go to KeishaRice.com/links. That's KeishaRice.com/links. I can't wait to talk to you again in the next episode. So see you then.